If you are tired of being told to just lose weight, get back on the pill, or deal with missing periods, welcome. You are finally in the right room to get the answers you've been looking for. I'm Dr. Angela Potter, and this is the PCOS Lab. Together, we find the root causes to help your body work as it's supposed to and restore your cycles from the inside out. Let's head into the lab. Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for joining me to share your story. You have such an inspirational story to share.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Potter, for having me. Excited to share. Hopefully, it's helpful for many people.
Yes, from what I know about you, yes, I think it's going to be really helpful to others. And let's start, Tracy, back before we were working together and kind of those pain points that led you to working with me. What were you most frustrated and struggling with? And how long had that been going on before we started working together?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So a little backstory. I want to say it was like the end of 2022. I decided to come off of birth control so that we could start trying to have a family. I was also on spironolactone, a medication just for hormonal acne at that time. But I was like, I'm going to just come off of the birth control so that we can go slow with things, but I'll stay on the spironolactone for now. Because I just had a feeling like it was going to be a little bit challenging getting things regulated after coming off of birth control. So did that, and I actually had pretty regular cycles while still on the spironolactone throughout 2023. And then at the end of 2023, we were like, okay, well, we can't get pregnant while still on spironolactone, so it's time to come off the spironolactone as well. And that is when everything kind of went seriously downhill for me very quickly. I think one of the very early things that I noticed, someone who's usually pretty active. So I use my Garmin watch for a lot of statistics just in my recovery and my training status. And all of my stats just immediately tanked. Sleep score, HRV status, body battery, everything, all metrics just went downhill. And I know the watch is something that yes, it's a good tool, but should it be something that you 100% focus on? So I was like, I don't want this to dictate how I'm feeling, but simultaneously, I was also feeling worse and worse and worse as 2024 was progressing. I noticed my acne was getting worse. My energy was way down. My social drive was going down. One of the most frustrating things is I work in healthcare, and my ability to focus and just concentrate at work. And I do 12-hour shifts. So the ability to just be able to stay in tune and even just conversate with my patients was becoming really challenging. And then one of the biggest frustrations I had through this was my fatigue, as I would be someone who felt like I could sleep for 12 hours a night and then still wake up in the morning feeling like I got absolutely no sleep. So during that time, I was seeing a bunch of medical providers too. Ultimately ended up getting diagnosed with PCOS, and I met the picture of that pretty clearly. My cycles were 60 days long, very painful, long luteal phases. My PCP had referred me to reproductive endocrinology, and my reproductive endocrinologist at the time thought that maybe I also, in addition to PCOS, had a little bit of hypothalamic amenorrhea due to a lot of exercise and an energy imbalance. So I was like, okay, if that's the case, maybe I'm not saying no. So we cut out all exercise from August of 2024 until I started working with you around November, December 2024, and didn't really notice any difference in that at all. I put on a good 15 to 20 pounds just in 3 months. My diet was the same. The only thing that changed was just not exercising. My acne got significantly worse. My cycles were still really long. Nothing was getting better. So when I found you in November of 2024, I was just at this place of absolute desperation. And I think one of the biggest frustrating things for me at that time was I was doing a lot of my own research. I had a ton of different books. My Instagram algorithm was basically all PCOS related stuff and hormonal health, starting tweak my diet a little bit, cutting back on the exercise. So I think the frustrating and relatable thing that a lot of people will find is you see all of these resources and these things popping up on Instagram and people saying that you can do a certain thing and that it should work. And I felt like I was watching all of these people, like these success stories, like on Instagram and in these books, being like, yes, if you do this, 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 and this, then like your hormones should be balanced and it should be fine. And I felt like I was doing all of that and things still weren't working out for me. And I think that that was like one of the biggest frustrations when I came to you was like, what else could I possibly be doing to have an hormonally optimal like lifestyle? So that's kind of what brought me up to you.
Yeah. And remind me, how long had you been trying to get pregnant from when you were off the birth control up until we started working together?
About a year and a half, I would say. Yeah. So we came off of the birth control in 2023 and then really started trying in like 2024 though. Like, so about a year kind of leading up to where I found you, where my cycles were like 60 days long. I'd been off of both birth control, spironolactone, and I did have a monitor too to see if I was ovulating. And I just was not ovulating.
Hmm.
And if it was just, like, very few and far between on, like, cycle day 40, just, like, very random times.
Hmm. Yeah. And in that year, you were doing all of that research, right? And like hearing all
Mhm.
those stories and being like, okay, here I'm trying these things.
Mhm.
And so you were kind of at the end of your rope, but also feeling like there's got to be something else. Is that
Yeah.
right? Can you
Yes.
tell us more about like how hard that was to be in that kind of mind frame of like, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, it's really frustrating, and, like, my heart does go out to other people who are also dealing with it, because I've kind of thought, like, that I was someone who you would look at and would be like, "Oh, yeah, they're healthy, like, they're eating
Mm.
healthy, they're eating really intentional, they're exercising intentionally, they're trying to prioritize, like, good sleep and rest and all of these things, like, trying to, like, not have a ton of toxic things in the household as and you're doing all of these things and it's still not working. It's so frustrating. So I remember even just kind of sitting up at my sister's and sitting on the first time that I had talked to you too was after I had listened to a podcast that you had been a guest on. Um and sitting there talking to you in the car for the first time, like, just, like, so emotional. I it's
Mm.
yeah, it felt so hopeless too, but then it was also terrifying too because all of this was for us being able to start a family, but then part of my thought process was like, "I'm so exhausted and I feel so unwell. How am I even going to have the stamina to support a pregnancy, to support a family, to have a baby?" So it wasn't even yeah, at that point too, I was like, I think we need to kinda shift our focus from trying to start a family immediately to trying to heal me from the inside out so that I'm able to be the best mom possible and the best wife possible to be able to even have a family.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful because for many women, it's like, yes, of course, that's the end goal is getting pregnant. But when
Yeah.
you're in that space where you're exhausted, your cycles are all over the place, you
Mhm.
could barely do your regular daily activities. It's like, how is my body going to carry a baby? And how can I be energized to be the mom I want to be?
Exactly, exactly. It's so true. Yeah, I just kind of found that like I wasn't going to be able to do both. And I'm as a healthcare provider myself too, and like just kind of watching family members and other people go through their own challenges is like I really do believe that in order like to care for someone else in a good capacity is like you really need to be able to take care of yourself first. And that was something where, yeah, I like taking the time. I know it delayed like us getting pregnant a little bit, but it was so worth it. Like looking back on it, I'm so grateful that we just took the time to do the healing rather than just trying to force a pregnancy immediately. And we are reproductive endocrinologists. We did go through all the pre-testing to go through IVF. And if we had to go that route, we were open to going that route. But again, like I think like doing the healing first and then being able to naturally conceive is just such a blessing for us.
Yeah, which was so cool to watch all of this unfold for you while you were working with me. And so
Mhm.
here there you were in that mental space of like, I want to heal my body, but I'm just finding all this information online that's not really helping me. And
Yeah.
so then you started working with me. Can you share kind of what that process was like for you and what changed for you during that process?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think one thing too, and I've seen this kind of in my own practice as well, is like when you're committing to a healing journey or you're choosing to start a healing journey, is like the provider. So you, in this sense, like you can tell us what to do, but then it's really on us to be like, yes, like I am fully committing to this and like being all in. And I think that's just something that I would encourage everyone else who's listening to this to do too, is like, I know it's a lot of work and it's a lot of commitment and sacrifice to like really put intentional time into healing your body and healing yourself, but it's just so, so worth it. And it really does take like your 100% like all in type of effort. So for me, when we started, it was November of last year. And it was right before Thanksgiving. And the first recommendation really was to get kickstarted on this 21-day detox. And that was just a little elimination diet and then a whole lot of like different nutritional support in various different ways. And it entailed pretty much missing out on a lot of the good things of Thanksgiving dinner. But at that point too, like when you're in that place of just kind of desperation and needing healing, I was like, it doesn't even matter. Like, let's just do this thing. And we committed to it. And like for 21 days, I did exactly what you recommended. And I remember getting my period literally like 5 days into the detox out of 21 days. So it really did work so fast. It was remarkable. And it's just funny because like it's things that like at first I was like, oh, this is sure, let's just do it. Like it seems kind of silly. Like I don't know how much of a difference this is going to make, especially because my diet's already pretty good. But it's funny, sometimes your body just needs something so small, just like a tiny little tweak that has like a huge impact. So that's kind of where we started. We started with the detox. And then I really liked the approach that we took over the next few months is like each time that we met, we just small incremental shifts. So nothing that was going to be overwhelming or not sustainable. It's just like, how can you, and I know you said this, how can you like make this like 1 degree term? Because that is going to just make a huge difference in like the outcome, the course of where you're going. And it really did. It was just small steps, little changes that made a huge difference. And it's funny too, because then some people will ask me now, like, well, what is it that you did that got you there? And I'll kind of try to tell them and be like, oh, yeah, we did this, and this. And they're like, so what did you do? And it seems so silly, and that's where I think it's like kind of funny because like the body is so individual and unique that like what worked for me might not necessarily work for the next person, but it's just kind of finding that balance and like what it is that's kind of puts you over the edge so that you can like just slowly make small changes and see what's working.
Yeah, and you in particular
Mhm.
having your provider really focusing on HA
Yeah.
before, right? And you weren't seeing any changes with the treatment that you were doing as far as, stopping your exercise. You actually weren't you were going the other direction, like you weren't feeling good at
Yes.
all.
Yeah.
And then to then get really specific about what your body needed for your hormones and to get
Yeah.
your ovulation on board. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, yeah. So exercise has always been something that's just been such a huge part of my life. I've gone through like my marathoning season, I've gone through like a CrossFitting season and always training for something. And I always felt that like I've never been someone who's intentionally restricted food either. So I'd be like, well, this is kind of interesting if it was like a hypothalamic HA type of picture. But also at the same time, like I'm open to trying anything. Like maybe my body just did need like a little less intensity on the exercise and a little bit more calories. But I felt like we were going in the wrong direction. And it was really anxiety provoking just seeing like myself getting worse despite giving up exercise, which is something that I love that really is such a huge stress relief for me. So in terms like physical health was really just not good last year. And then mental health on top of that was just also just really not good. Just like trying so many things, not exercising, and then still not seeing the progress. But I have a lot of respect for like the team that did work with me last year, the medical providers as well, because I feel like there's just so much that we don't know about these type of conditions still. And there's still so much to learn. So if it did come down to, eliminating exercise for me, I was willing to do it. But I did find kind of as I started working with you, and I know that we were cautious too as we ramped up my exercise as well. We didn't do
Right.
anything too crazy. And I went really, really, really slow and steady getting back into exercise this year. And I was very, very in tune with my body. And if it seemed like something was off or if it was derailing my progress that we had worked so hard to achieve, then I would have backed off. And then fortunately for me, I didn't have to. Like I continued to just slowly ramp it up over the course of the year till finding kind of that sweet spot. I didn't do anything crazy this year. There was no marathon running, like there's nothing crazy. It was just finding my body's balance of where I needed to be, in terms of like feeling good hormonally and like not overdoing it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And so, what are all the things that you noticed have changed while you were working with me?
A lot of things. Yeah. So one is my skin. That was a big frustration for me. Definitely improved significantly over just the few months that we were working together. My energy levels improved and it wasn't perfect, but it was so much more it was way better than it was. And my ability to focus and concentrate, like the brain fog was gone. Like I felt like work was less painful and I just like it was really, really frustrating for me just being at work and feeling as if I was just in survival mode all the time. Cause I think, like, yeah, in healthcare, it's such an opportunity to help other people. But kind of like I said, like, I just wasn't able to help anyone when I really just couldn't even help myself at that point. So it was so huge having that brain fog lift and being able to focus and concentrate at work again. I was sleeping better, which was also huge at the end of it. My social capacity increased a little bit. And that was something that did take some sacrifice, though. Our lives prior to, 2024 were just like everybody's these days, so busy. Work, travel, family. We're pretty involved in our church. We're just trying to do a million things all the time. And then my training schedule as well. So I would be burning the candle really hard on both ends, like getting up early and then going to bed like later, trying to keep up with all these social commitments. So I did like it took a lot of saying no to certain plans or saying no to training. It just couldn't do both. And finding that balance. And then when I did say yes, like making sure that it was like 100% yes, we're doing this. So yeah, I think those were really the biggest improvements that I saw. And then just I realized too when I was kind of in the worst of the hormonal imbalances is that plans were a chore for me. So we would have like a dinner on the book with friends, and I'd be like, oh no, we have to do this dinner. And it was just, I'm like, this shouldn't be like this. I want to be
Mm.
excited for the plans that we have. So it was really nice after we were done working together to have the plans that we had made. And I was excited about them. Like, yay, we get to go to dinner. Like, we get to do all of these things with friends. So it was a huge shift.
Yeah, that must have felt really good in your body
Yeah.
to be like, okay, I'm actually having the energy to be able to do my work and then have fun with friends.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it was really what we needed to do too was also just like kind of keep people in our corner that were really supportive of where we were at in the
Mhm.
journey that I was going on. So a lot of the people that are close to us too, I'd be like, we're going to go to dinner, but we're going to go to dinner early so that I can be home and in bed by like 9:30. That's the sweet spot for my body. And the people that kind of like were behind us and know what we were going through were so supportive of that too.
Oh,
So it was a lot
that's
of boundaries.
I love that for you and that you have this community that's really supportive of that as well.
Yeah, so important. It really is so important.
And so what were you noticing with your hormones and your cycles?
Yeah, we did some lab testing together, and realized like certain areas where I was a little deficient that we could tweak. My estrogen was pretty low at that time. I think some of my other labs were okay, but over the course of like working with you, I was still continuing to use my hormone tracker, my needle monitor, and noticed that my hormone levels, like I was actually seeing in the follicular phase, like that slow rise in estrogen to getting the LH surge and then having that estrogen progesterone spike in the second part of the cycle. My cycles were like 32, 33 days opposed to 60. So we cut it in half. And that started very early on. Like, I mean, 5 days into us working with us, I got that first period and then had like 32, 33-day cycles pretty consistently thereafter. I think I had one weird cycle last spring where I was like, ooh, I hope this is just a fluke. And it was. It was pretty consistent thereafter. It was crazy. Yeah. And I could tell too. I could tell just, I mean, I know there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of see where you are in your cycle just on tracking your body signs and symptoms. And I was able to be like, yes, my monitor is saying that I'm ovulating right now, and I'm definitely ovulating right now. I can see all the signs of ovulation. So that was really cool. And in terms of just kind of like the journey up to getting pregnant too, I wanted to see at that point, I was really committed and fired up about the healing process and like seeing the changes and seeing the changes on my monitor. Like I'm definitely a science person. So being able to like feel the changes and see them happening was super exciting for me. So for the first half of this year, like really January to June, we were like, let's just ride this healing wave. And I think that took a lot of stress off of both my husband and I too. Being like, we're just going to take a break on like trying to conceive because that was causing a lot of stress. Let's just focus on healing and feeling good and kind of pouring back into our relationship and pouring back into our community, things that we just weren't able to do in 2024 before we start trying to get pregnant again.
Wow. And what a mental shift, because
Yeah.
2024 was so based on what you've shared with me, like you were really hyper focused on what's going on, like is it HA, is it PCOS, what is it and what does my body need? And that was like
Yeah.
really stressful for you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so we were working together starting in November, and
Mhm.
then you were seeing your cycles regulate, and then you were
Mhm.
kind of like you were focused on the healing process and letting go a little bit on the timeline and things that you had been holding on to.
Yep.
And then so then how many months was that before you were able to get pregnant?
7 or 8. Yeah, about 8 months or so. So we did the detox pretty immediately, and then we took another good, like, 6 or so months of just continuing to optimize healing and working with you, making those just small changes, figuring out kind of my individual body's needs for exercise and rest, and figuring out kind of my circadian rhythm and how to optimize my sleep a little bit more, and just balancing those social plans too and work. It was in July that we had really intentionally tried for a baby again. And that was all it took. It took 1 month of actually really trying, which is just so shocking because we had a trip to Spain planned in August that we were both super pumped about for this year. And we were like, no, but we're going to start trying in July because it'll probably take a little bit of time. It did not take a lot of time. We did. We got pregnant that first month that we really tried. And that was just such a blessing. So we still went to Spain. I was in the first trimester and it was a little bit painful, but it was so worth it.
Wow, what a way to celebrate.
I know. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were mentioning, right before you started working with me, just that
Mhm.
feeling of like, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted. How could I even be ready for motherhood? How
Mhm.
were you feeling in that aspect in, May, June, July, leading up to getting pregnant?
Mhm. So much better. I think over the course of the year, like I'd figured out what worked for me, with working with you and what just kind of figuring out my individual body. And that's where it does take time and it does take sacrifice and commitment because I mean everybody's different and like what works for me might not necessarily work for the next person. And what I was seeing worked for other people online, like certainly wasn't working for me either, and hearing all these other stories. So I think like looking back on it, I'm so grateful that we did take the time this year to really optimize our health, my health, because I wouldn't have had the stamina prior to that. And then going into the pregnancy, I had figured out my sleep needs. I had figured out a good balance of exercise that worked for me. I was back into exercising too. So it wasn't like I had spent 6 months last year not exercising, immediately going into pregnancy and then trying to figure out pregnancy and starting to exercise again. It just would have been like way too much. So I had like a good exercise routine. Nutritionally, I guess that's something I hadn't really touched on yet. Prior to working with you, I was actually primarily like, I don't really love the term vegan, but whole food plant based. So just staying away from processed, like mostly whole food plant based things, not a lot of meat at all. And one of the big changes that I made with working with you was incorporating a lot more protein. I think one of my nutritional needs was more protein. So I've been eating a lot more dairy. I've been eating a lot more chicken and seafood and like eggs and things that I just was not really eating before. And I think that made a big difference for me as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. And also how just speaking to that individualization, like that's
Hmm.
what your body needed.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's what my body needed. And I think I had like a good foundation of, staying away from like refined sugars and processed foods and eating a lot of like veggies and like plant-based things. But I definitely needed a little bit more nutritionally than I was getting with just that.
Mhm.
And yep, everybody's different when it comes to that. So that's where it's like, I feel like I'm kind of constantly tweaking my body based off of needs in different seasons and like labs that come back, my diet. Yeah, it's constantly learning and just being like, you know what, I think we could benefit from a little bit more of this.
Yeah, and how cool that that was one of those missing pieces, like that
Mm.
puzzle piece that before you're like, "But I'm eating really well. I'm not eating anything
Right.
refined and
Right.
eating lots of vegetables, like I must be perfect." But no, there was something that your body needed that we figured out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's something that I wouldn't have guessed too. I would have been like, "No, my diet's perfect." No, like and that's where it is very individualized. Yeah, it's every just needed a little bit more of animal-based things.
Yeah. And another thing I was thinking about when you were talking about, okay, had to, when you started working with me, it was like, okay, I need to put aside the desire to get pregnant right now and focus
Yeah.
on my health. And then it took about 8 months, which I know for people who are actively trying to conceive, that can
Mhm.
feel like a very long time.
Yeah.
But before you and I hit record on this, we were like, gosh, it was only a year ago that we met and started working together,
Yeah,
and look at where you are now. You're
I
halfway
know.
through a very healthy pregnancy.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. Yeah, 8 months, like, it does seem like a long time, and it's funny because I remember when I first started working with you too, like, my goal at that point wasn't healing, it was still pregnancy. So even
Mhm,
when you had recommended after the detox to probably give yourself a good 3 or 4 months prior to trying to conceive to really allow that egg quality and to turn over and stuff. And I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that." Like, I'm trying to get pregnant immediately. But
mhm,
it's funny because, like, as you progress and as you see changes, in your body and your healing, like, your goals kind of shift too. And that timeline doesn't seem so like, "Oh my gosh, I need to get pregnant now." It actually I was like, "I actually need to heal now." And, like, I think mentally it just made more sense. I was all the things that I was trying to rush, I just was like, I wouldn't be able to support a pregnancy where I'm at. Like, this is actually what we need to be focusing on right now is the healing. Yeah. And
mm,
that's allowed for, I think, just so much smoother of a pregnancy. And I definitely had the first trimester, morning sickness and fatigue and everything that everybody talks about with the first trimester. But I just can't imagine having gone through the first trimester, feeling what you feel during the first trimester and also feeling what I was feeling last year at this time. So it's just so worth taking the time to heal. Like I know it seems like a lot of time and I mean I'm in my 30s. So I was like, I want to get pregnant right now. So waiting 8 months seemed like such a big deal. But in the big scheme of things, like, it really is just a couple of extra months that's going to make just you feel so much better. And it's going to be so much better on the baby, I think, too. So now we're in the second trimester. We're 23 weeks along and we're feeling great. We're in that sweet spot. Like I was saying too, my energy is better than it's been in years. Like I go to bed still early. Like I've always been an early person. So like 9 p.m. But then I wake up in the morning, like actually feeling refreshed. And that is just such a change for me. Like I've never actually like woken up on my own and been like, I'm good to go. Let's do the day. So that it's just been amazing. And I've still been able to be active through the pregnancy. My diet, like the changes that we did make has, I think, been really great for the baby. And you can feel, we know we're having a boy, so we can feel him kick when I'm like eating certain foods and doing certain things. And that's just really special to see. So it was such a journey, but it was all just so worth it.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because it is that really hard spot of like, okay, do I put this aside, my desire to get pregnant and just focus on my health? But I mean, look at
Mhm.
you of all these things that you're grateful for over this
Yeah.
past year now. That's really special.
Yeah, yeah, we're so grateful. It really was no coincidence that I was like listening to that podcast that day that you happened to be on, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've got to hit this Dr. Potter up immediately." And I really am. I'm so grateful. My husband is too, because it does like it also it has an impact on your significant other as well. It was stressful for him to watch me feeling so unwell and then not feel like he was able to do anything about it. And then we've only been married for a couple of years too, and I was like this like vibrant, energetic person, like doing a million things when I was on birth control. And then to just come off of a couple medications and like completely tank, I was like, who am I? And imagine he was too, kind of like, wow, who are you? What is happening? So it was great for our relationship too. And I imagine that will be the case for other people as well. Like take the time to heal because that's not just impacting yourself, it's also impacting the people around you.
Yes. Well, yeah, I was just thinking about asking you that, as we wrap up here, what
Yeah.
are some words that you have for somebody who's listening to this, who's in a similar space as you were last
Mhm.
year, just feeling lost and like what is it that's going to get me pregnant because I feel like I'm trying everything. What would you say
Yeah.
to that person?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I would say give yourself grace to kind of like meet your body where it's at because it's really discouraging when you're seeing a million people doing things that seem to be working and for you it's not. And just because it's seems like you're doing everything right, there's always like one little thing that you can find that is going to make a big difference. And I felt like that was the case for us when we started working together. Was it really wasn't huge tweaks, it was just small things. So it's worth the investment in your health and your time and the sacrifice that it's going to take to get that extra support and really figure out the root cause of what it is that's kind of putting your body over the edge. And then yeah, just from a relational standpoint too, like taking the time to heal just for the sake of your significant other really is just so huge. I know the healing was good for me, but in the beginning of this year, just leading up to us trying to get pregnant again, it was like time that we were able to kind of just rebuild our relationship as husband and wife too. And that was really important.
That's so beautiful how really thank you for sharing that. Like this can be helpful in so many areas of your life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as a provider too, I know with my patients, like it's always frustrating when I feel like I'm like giving advice to patients and then not seeing them being able to like carry it out themselves. Cause I'm just like, I know what you need to do. You just need to be the one to do it. So that's where I would say too is like for us, like being on the other side now too, where I was like, I wasn't in the provider seat, I was in the patient seat. So it was me that actually had to do the work. So, like, you can tell us what to do, but then it has to be on us to be like, okay, no, I'm going to make these changes because it's going to make a difference. So I would just encourage everyone who's listening to this too to like say yes and then 100% commit. It's like we've got to be the one to actually implement the change.
Yeah, and here you are with the results. I mean, yes, you're pregnant, but you're also feeling really good in your
Yeah.
body and you feel healthy.
Yes. 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 It does work. It really does. So worth it.
Well, Tracy, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. And it's really been such an honor to be on this journey with you over this past year.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Potter. We're so grateful.
Thank you for being here in the PCOS lab today. If you are feeling frustrated, remember, your body, it's not broken. We just need to find the missing clues and fit together the right data points. When you are ready to look at those clues, head to drangelapotter.com/start. There, you can choose the exact next step you are ready for, whether that's my ovulation assessment or applying for an audit call with me. Either path gives you the personalized clarity you need to stop guessing and start creating a predictable cycle. That's drangelapotter.com/start. Keep looking at the biology, be gentle with your system, and I'll see you next time in the lab.